Good morning, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of the Business Festival in the Facebook group, the can't get my words out, the Natural Entrepreneurs Hub. I obviously spoke far too much yesterday, and so I'm going to try and rely on everybody else to do the talking today. We've got this morning's session with David Charlton, and then we've got another session this afternoon with Alison Nuttall on how to look after yourself physically and the importance of that in our business too. So back to this morning though. So mental toughness is something that I've always associated with sport. And our guest today is a sports psychologist. And, it's a good connection, of course. What I hadn't realised is the impact that mental toughness can have on us day to day, not least in the place where we spend a great deal of time, which, of course, is at work, where we invest our hearts and souls into our careers in whatever our chosen vocation is. And for all of us in the group, that's running, founding, owning and running our own businesses. So I'm pretty sure you've all heard me talk about resilience, and mental toughness is part of that bigger picture. And just in case you haven't, a quick reminder of how I look at resilience in the 3 sectors: mind, body and soul. Today, we're obviously focusing on the mind, and we've got some more another look at the body this afternoon with Ali, and we'll be looking at part of the soul tomorrow afternoon when I do the purpose session. So we like to have that full picture of resilience. And as you know, if you don't take care of your resilience, then things can start to go wrong for you in a way. Excuse me. And, you kind of, if you're not taking time to top up that resilience as you take from it in times of challenge when you need it most, then you're going to start coming across issues for yourself, mentally and physically, and in the way that you feel in your soul. So I can't stress enough that looking after yourself in this way and topping up that resilience is hugely important to you and your business success. So today we're joined by David Charlton. David is a sports psychologist, and let me just bring him on screen there. Hello, David.
Hi, Paula. Hi. Thank you for inviting me on today. I'm really looking forward to this.
Oh, you're so welcome, and thank you for agreeing. So you are a sports psychologist who supports athletes to get the most from their talent by developing their mental toughness. You also help business professionals with their performance and well-being needs as well. So really great way to step into resilience as we look at the mind today. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, when you mentioned about the mind, body and soul, I've got to completely agree with that. And yeah, really looking forward to diving in and talking about it in more depth.
Brilliant. Well, you've taken the words right out of my mouth. You're obviously ready to go. So let's do this. So you have the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast and support your clients in building their mental toughness. Can you describe to us then what you mean by mental toughness?
Okay, so as you've mentioned the podcast there, I'm going to actually start with the myths around mental toughness. So yeah, the first one I'll mention sport, because obviously you touched on that a little bit earlier. People associate mental toughness with sport. However, what I would say is certainly the framework that I work from, the 4 C's framework, it's been heavily researched across business, health, education and sports settings. There's over 100 journals, lots of books out there, and it's like the research that's been done has been done globally. So let's bust that myth. It's not all about sport.
You've got a compelling case going there.
Yeah, most definitely. So then other myths, though, people think about, I think they're quick to judge the words, and toughness can often be misconstrued to just grinding it out, getting your head down, just getting on with things. And I suppose, not taking care of yourself and learning from your mistakes. So again, it's more complex than that, though. There's more to it. Another thing would be, and this probably links with the sport connotation, is that mental toughness isn't a male macho trait at all. Women can be as tough, if not tougher than men in lots of fields. And the last one I would say is, you can be mentally tough, but you can also be empathetic and a caring person. Because again, if you look at it through the lens of someone's a doer and just gets busy, they could be regarded as quite selfish. That's far from it. So those are the myths. In terms of I'll start with the definition. So the definition I use is, mental toughness is a plastic personality trait which determines in large part how individuals deal with stressors, pressure, and challenges. So what I mean by plastic personality trait is it's developable. Spit that word out.
That's a great word.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that.
So mental toughness can be developed.
Okay.
Because again, a lot of people have this thing where you're either mentally weak or mentally tough, and I've got to say, I completely disagree, and I don't use that word mentally weak at all in any of my vocabulary. And certainly from the research that's done, they have mental toughness on a continuum from mentally sensitive through to mentally tough, and we all sit somewhere along that spectrum. So it can be developed. And then if we're looking at how individuals deal with stressors, pressure, challenges, the research also tells us that there's a 25% variation in performance through developing this trait, through mental toughness, and that the more mentally tough you are, you're likely to improve your employability prospects if you're a youngster. You're likely to have more of a can-do attitude and feel less helpless when you've got maybe some challenges going on with your well-being and mental health. And ultimately, you're going to thrive more in future and be more flexible, I suppose, to change and to different things that occur in your life. So there's a little bit of information around mental toughness.
Oh, that's fantastic, David. There's a couple of things in there. I'm just going to say, when we talk about resilience in coaching, we do talk about that bounce back ability, that ability to recover faster, quicker than anyone else, that ability to flex, to be able to deal with challenge and stress much faster. And, you're describing that in terms of that mental toughness piece, which I really love, because that kind of fits in really nicely with the work that I do as a coach, for example, into the work that you do as a performance and sports psychologist. You mentioned something right back at the beginning there, the 4 C's. Are you going to tell us about that later, or do you want to talk about that now? I was curious.
So that fits perfectly what you've mentioned there about resilience. So arguably you could say that resilience is quite a reactive trait, their characteristic. And when you mentioned there about bouncing back from setbacks, the argument around mental toughness would be that it's more proactive. And in that, what I mean by that is, if we look at the 4 C's, you've got commitment, you've got challenge, you have control, and confidence. So I'll cite an example. So if we look at a year, let's look at 2021 for argument's sake. You set your stall out at the start of the year as a business owner to go about certain projects at different times in the year, and then maybe Boris comes along and he moves the goalposts potentially.
That never happens.
Not at all, no. So, that could have a massive impact on your business, as it has done with a lot of people. And perhaps you could be hit financially, for argument's sake. So where one of the C's there is confidence. Mm-hmm. So it could be that the story you tell yourself, I suppose, is incorrect, and you get into your own head, and your confidence is knocked, and then that goes on further upstream where you, I don't know, you play things safe. You don't necessarily
become more risk averse.
Exactly, yeah. You don't necessarily go on and do one of the projects that you did have planned because the confidence has been knocked there. So when we're talking about developing mental toughness, we'd be certainly looking at those avenues. I mentioned about commitment being one of the things. So the committed individual would have a high degree of focus when challenges, setbacks do crop up. They would be less likely to get distracted.
Okay.
And also, I was going to say, thrown into the mix there, that the challenge element is very much about being able to learn from situations. Often people might be committed, they might even be confident in the way they go about things. However, they might just be, enjoy being busy, but they don't learn from mistakes. So again, that's another important ingredient in there. And that's not to mention,
because that's kind of connected to growth mindset, isn't it?
It is. It is all around positive psychology. The 4 C's framework. And then we haven't talked about the control element, which is hugely important. So, I'll cite an example actually here. So, you might have been a business owner who has about 20 plus staff, and prior to COVID, you're likely to have been in the office with them, and you would have been conducting meetings and having conversations day in, day out. However, what some people have certainly found is those who are like lower down on the emotional control element, they could be like really highly committed people that could be confident in their ability in doing things, but if their emotional control was slightly lower, what certainly has happened for a few people is during COVID, when they've had to work from home and not necessarily be in the position to have as many conversations with their staff, with colleagues, they've been blowing and finding it very, very difficult. And then you'll notice by the way they've communicated through messages or emails or what have you, it would highlight that they've struggled in that regard. So that's just one example. And I mean, we'll all know people who struggle with their emotions and with dealing with people, and that's an element to it. I could go into more depth. There's also in the control element, you've got life control, which really is someone having a positive can-do attitude towards life, and there's links there with their self-esteem as well, which we can all have issues with, especially when changes and problems occur in our lives.
Yeah. Well, this is fascinating. I'm learning loads already, and we're 14 minutes in. Brilliant. And it's lovely to know too, that reinforcement that the things that I use in my coaching and the tools that I have in my toolkit, if you like, are supportive of that positive psychology element. As much as I'm not a psychologist at all, but it's nice to know that the things that I'm doing are positive reinforcement for the clients that I support. So yeah, fascinating. Oh, thank you for sharing the 4 C's framework with us. Might have a little look into that now.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So, sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just going to say, yeah, I like it because it's very straightforward and quite simple to explain to people when you're working with them.
Absolutely, and I'm sure they get a lot from it, because that's giving them the full picture, isn't it? Each of those elements covers a section of the pie, if you like. I use a pie analogy quite often, and having those 4 quadrants that they can work to. So I've just seen a little question here from Darren, so I'll bring that up on screen. Might be a silly question. No such thing as a silly question, Darren, but is there a silver bullet, a way a person can keep themselves reminded to focus on emotional control, some form of trigger or reminder? Now we're testing you.
Yeah, you are, yeah. So I suppose really the first thing there would be trying to understand what your triggers are, what causes you to, I don't know, to be aggressive with people, or to be to lose your temper, to communicate in different ways. What I like to explore during those conversations would be, is this trigger like something I'm trying to get my finger right in this direction in the future, or is it in that direction in the past? And I think that can be quite helpful, because then if you do something like meditation or grounding, centering exercises, and try and help yourself stay more in the moment, where try and get in the center here, in the center there, in the present, then that can help you stay in control during some of those difficult situations.
And that's a really great point, actually, David. Thanks for that. That whole grounding piece that I do a lot of with clients, and in fact use that quite a bit when I'm doing bigger programs with more people in, and you kind of do a group grounding exercise at the beginning as well. And that visualization piece, all of those things that can really help people focus in the moment. Especially if they've got a big interview or a big presentation coming up tomorrow. I've used that quite a lot to help people be in the moment and really be able to prepare and focus on what's coming up right now, kind of thing.
Yeah, without doubt, because if you're looking in the future, then it's so easy, isn't it, to get overwhelmed, and your thoughts. I suppose if you think of your thoughts in terms of a temperature gauge, when you're nice and calm and relaxed, they're down here, but the closer you get to an event, it can just go up, creep up and up and up. So yeah, being able to ground yourself helps no doubt. And then likewise, though, if you're guilty of making a mistake or something like that at work, and you know what different cultures are like. Some cultures can be highly blame orientated. You can go on to beat yourself up and criticize yourself an awful lot. So again, that's where the grounding exercises or meditation style exercises can help people.
Yeah, no, I really, really enjoy looking at that sort of thing. And I must admit, I didn't only come across meditation recently. That's a fib. What I mean to say is, I only found a type of meditation that worked for me recently, because I've had people say, "Oh, just listen to this tape and give that a try," or just sit quietly and let your mind drift. Well, of course, inevitably all this stuff keeps coming in as you're trying to empty your mind and think about anything but what you want to forget. And for me, it was a sound bath. Have you ever come across them?
I don't think I have, in all honesty, no. But I'm pretty sure I know what you mean.
Yeah. So the bowls where they do the sound on them, and then they change to another bowl that's a different pitch, and then they do them in a certain rhythm, and then they change the rhythm and do it slightly differently. And for about 20 minutes, I think this session was. It was incredible. I've never been able to be in the moment like that. It's just amazing. So anyone listening, go and try sound bath. I recommend it because it really makes you focus in the moment.
You've just you've made me think here. I went to it's like a meditation day, if you like. I've done it two or three times now, and wow, you talk about being in the moment. So these days that have been organised, they're up in like my area in the northeast. I think they were from about 10 in the morning till 4 o'clock, and literally you walk through the door and there's about 20 people there, and you're told it's got to be absolute silence for the whole day. You're not allowed to talk to anybody. And it's wow, like the first, honestly, you find yourself, I think at first when you maybe a bit uncomfortable about it, you're looking around and at different people, you're a little bit self-conscious, I suppose, to a degree. But then the longer you're there, you seem to become more at peace with your thoughts. But they do a whole range of exercises with the senses, like where you sort of putting your attention into your body. You mentioned about sound, touch, taste, all of these things. It's fascinating and taught me an awful lot about the different aspects to being mindful. I'd recommend it. It's a challenge, no doubt about it.
Yeah, maybe you can tell me, pass on the details, because that would be fascinating. But maybe we shouldn't go together. We'd be giggling in the corner.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Voice is definitely giving up already. This is not a good sign. So, next question for you, David. I'm really curious to know how you realised that your work with elite athletes translated to supporting business entrepreneurs, because that's quite a leap. So how did you sort of flip that over?
Right. Okay. So I think it comes in a few different ways. So I had a career change when I was in my early 30s. Prior to that, I worked in the travel industry, in a variety of different roles. The last role I had, I was a branch manager, and quite a lot of the job was people orientated. So managing people, disciplinaries. There was some selling. There was account management, different things like that. So I suppose as I'm going through the training, so I did a degree, and then I did a master's degree. Part of the degree was in occupational psychology, and I have to say, after doing the degree, that was the occupational psychology and sports psychology were my two passions, if you like. So I chose the heart over the head, in all honesty, to go on and do the masters in sports psychology and then the further chartership. I could have quite easily gone down the occupational route. And that was, I suppose, born out of the fact that I'd been in the business environment prior to that. But yeah, like I said, the heart ruled the head. I was always concerned that if I went to be a chartered sports psychologist, whether financially it would be viable and it would be as secure as being in the business or occupational side. But yeah, I certainly don't regret doing that. So
Good.
I suppose that's where it came from. And then as I was going through the training a little bit further on, I would do a lot of research. I was looking around, seeing what other people were doing, and I noticed quite a few sports psychologists were working in business as well. And, yeah, did some reading, read some books, and then I could see how it all fitted together. Because let's be honest, I suppose in sport with teams especially, it's no different really from being in a business environment. I mentioned about like blame cultures before, and just what communication in general can be lacking, how people give feedback and things like that. So yeah, but then I'm gonna rewind the clock back a little bit before I made the career change. So a really difficult period in my life was between 2007 and 2009. And my wife had got diagnosed with cancer in 2007. And it was like horrific. It was a really difficult time. But again, if we're thinking about business and how they go, how different businesses operate and how people operate. I was given 3 months off work on the sick, and it was paid for. The company that I worked for were absolutely amazing and really, really supportive.
Good.
And then helped me through that period. And then again, my wife ended up dying in 2008, and they were like really supportive during that period as well. And I'm so grateful for. But I think I've seen it on the other side now in my work, where companies and in business and in sport haven't been so caring and empathetic. And then the impact it's gone on to have on someone's life. So that whole treating the person as an individual and actually showing empathy for me is such a big piece there, and where a lot of organizations, clubs, teams get it wrong because of pressure and performance pressures and the doing type of cultures that exist. So yeah, and then I talk about, so my wife died in 2008, but then it was really, really challenging, obviously, during that period to stay in the moment because of the uncertainty. But then the following year in 2009, one of the things that really helped me from a mental health standpoint was running. I ran my first marathon when she was ill, and then probably, in all honesty, I was probably running away from my problems by running. And I was due to do the Paris Marathon in the April 2009. Now, it meant an awful lot to me. It was on my birthday. We'd been on our honeymoon in Paris, and I got injured about 2 weeks before it, so I couldn't do it. And it meant I couldn't go running for about something like 6 to 8 months afterwards.
Good grief.
It was basically, I did one Achilles, and then I got fit, and then the other Achilles went, total imbalance. But I think what it did was it made me sit back and look at, well, what are the solutions here for me to help myself? Don't get me wrong, it was really challenging because obviously my outlet had gone. And then to add throw things into the mix, I got made redundant from my job 2 months later because of the recession. So I got, it was like, triple whammy.
Yeah, wasn't it just?
Yeah. So, but I ended up, it was a blessing in some ways, because I then I went to university. I made that decision to go to university and start all over again, if you like, in the September time. But yeah, I lost my support system, being at work and having conversations and all this sort of thing. So where am I going with this one? So yeah, when we're talking about supporting people in a business setting, there's so much, I think, goes on behind closed doors that we're not aware of. And if you're going to develop a psychologically safe culture, a culture where people are going to be more comfortable in their own skin, more at home, more confident in themselves, then treating them as an individual and then giving them some space to be able to talk is so important.
Oh, I'm so happy you mentioned psychological safety there. But first of all, just to acknowledge, thank you for being so open and honest about your background and why you came to see see it from the other side, and then, you know, that fueled your want to help people in business too, because you're absolutely right. There are some pretty toxic cultures out there that don't support their employees, and make it very difficult in terms of you know, anybody that's having challenges. And let's face it, we all have challenges in life. But just, you know, going back to psychological safety, I talk a lot about that, you know, in that leadership coaching side of things. And, you know, I was really lucky enough to do a program a number of years ago now, but in conjunction with Harvard, and met Amy Edmondson, professor, who has written the book called The Fearless Organization. I don't know if you've read it, but it's really good, David. I highly recommend it. She's a fantastically incredible woman who knows all about psychological safety, and the book obviously is about that, but she's done oodles of research herself with her team, and brings all of that into the book. So it's a really, really great tool to have up your sleeve when you're talking about these sorts of things.
Thank you for mentioning that. I haven't actually read that book, so yeah, it's going to be one of the first ones on my list, because I seem to be, I don't know, reading and talking about it an awful lot at the moment.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Now, so Darren shared something else here. He's saying, were you surprised at the huge variation in feedback cultures between sports and business? And that's a really good question. I like that.
Ooh, surprised. I don't think I'm surprised by anything. No.
Good answer.
What I suppose, well, I'll just share some learnings that I've noticed in sport, that how people are going about feedback. So some psychologists and performance coaches are advocating where they may, in a team scenario, have a WhatsApp group set up, and they have a set process when it comes down to like feedback and how people like review a performance. So the WhatsApp group would allow them to basically put their feelings in there after a game, pretty much straight after a game, so people can get it all out there. And then they allow time for everything to calm down, and then they also have a process in place the following day, 24 hours or 48 hours after, where they're again reviewing performance, and then the coach is obviously feeding back, not just one coach, but between the coaching team, they're then feeding back in a strategic way. But that is very much at the at the highest level. But then it's probably in very few clubs and organizations in that respect. But certainly from the conversations I've had around this, I can see how that works really, really well, and again promotes more psychological safety. However,
that's hugely open, isn't it? And hugely open to abuse, if you like, because if I think about that in a corporate environment, for example, where I used to work, my goodness me, that would have erupted.
Yeah, and I suppose,
which is sad to say.
It definitely, the important thing is the whole thing about making judgments, and a lot of people need to understand why they're doing it, and then not getting caught up in that blame game and judging themselves against other people and backstabbing and things like that. It really does open up an element of trust, as long as people adhere to understand why they're doing it and adhere to everything.
And you mentioned trust there, which is, excuse me, hugely important to me, part of my purpose. Trust is a massive part of everything that I do, trust in myself, but trust in others. And I think, people sometimes underestimate how fragile trust can be, because I think once it's damaged, it's exceptionally difficult to rebuild and repair, because you will always have the doubt in the mind that something might happen again, because you've got the evidence to say, well, you did that once, so why wouldn't you do it again? So I think that's a really interesting aspect of it all.
Yeah, can I take it back a little bit into
of course.
Mental toughness, and again this whole trust, psychological safety thing. So I suppose a few examples would be when you bring mental toughness into it, would be where somebody talks about commitment and they're actually comfortable to talk about the fact that maybe they've got their laptop open on an evening, that they're comfortable to talk about, where they want to get to, maybe being promoted in a role. But often, people, that isn't possible, because they get belittled and they get shamed, if you like, for having those types of conversations. And then the other thing, which I suppose we've touched on, would be when we talk about emotions, again, just being able to talk more freely about their emotions. But often that people see that as, I suppose, high maintenance employees and hard work. But yeah, if we're going to promote these type of cultures, then we've got to try and embrace that. Just like with confidence as well, allowing people to actually share that, I don't actually feel great about doing this task, and then trying to understand why that is the case, as opposed to just giving them the task and then stabbing them in the back
when they don't do it well, and you didn't provide the tools to help them do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, here you go, just go do it. And you're like, oh. That's so true.
It's really complex, and I suppose people make mistakes as well. Naturally, that's we're human, we're not robots. So the question would be, as a leader, do you actually find out why they may have made the mistake? Have you actually shown them how to do things, or have you been in a rush and just again handed something over without checking their understanding?
And that checking of understanding is so important, because there's so much that can be lost in translation between me saying to you, give a simple instruction. It's like, that's just reminded me, I did an exercise in a leadership workshop once about instructing somebody to put on lipstick without a mirror. Oh my goodness me, it was absolutely hilarious. I mean, this is a long time ago, but it's just popped into my head. And of course, the person giving the instructions is thinking they're being as precise as possible, but the person doing the lipstick, so you're up a bit, and they're all like clown faces.
Some people would be absolutely mortified doing that task.
So yes, I get that. So in terms of mental toughness, then what are some of the most common challenges you're seeing? And has that changed over time? Are you seeing more of a different thing now versus a few years ago, or is it pretty consistent?
So I suppose the people I work with and are generally highly driven, highly motivated and committed. And I suppose the higher you go up in organizations, that is generally the case, isn't it? Yeah. So I think with COVID, where the challenge there has been for those type of people is the fact that 8, 9, 10-hour days that they work have turned into 11, 12, 13-hour days, where they've been on their laptops on evenings till till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning in some cases. Weekends, they haven't had much to do, so why not just do a bit more work? And when you're motivated and passionate about what you do, then and enjoy your work. It's difficult, and I know I've got to say I've fallen foul of that at times as well. And yeah, and then before you know it, though, after a period of time, be it a few months of doing that, it becomes habitual, and the inner critic in you can sort of just keeps driving you on to do more and more and more, and you don't realize that you're neglecting your family potentially, that you're snapping at people, you're be that at home or in the workplace, that work just consumes you. So I've seen that an awful lot, and if that person isn't very self-aware, and that's the key in all of this, is self-awareness, really, and obviously that's part of our role as coaches, as psychologists, to draw that out of them. So yeah, if they're not self-aware and they're just on a crusade just to keep on being busy, and they're not going to look in the mirror, then yeah, they're going to burn out. And I think an awful lot of people have been guilty of that, and if they haven't burned out yet, they're still teetering on the brink. So yeah, that's definitely the biggest one I've noticed.
Yeah, that's really interesting, David, because we talk about in the whole resilience picture, that whole piece around recovery and how important it is to give yourself time for reflection, to give yourself time to sleep, to give yourself time to decompress and go and watch something silly on TV that makes you laugh. If you're working till 10, 11 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then you're up again at 5, 6 o'clock because your brain can't switch off, and then because you're working at home, it's easy just to come back into the office and start again. You're on this constant treadmill, and you're never giving yourself time mentally to recover, but also time for any exercise, any escape into the fresh air, all of that, that helps you physically keep going as well.
Definitely, yeah, and everybody's very, very different, aren't they? And how they want to spend their downtime. I think what I would encourage people to think about is, in effect, is get yourself a little well-being menu, which I talk a lot about in my work. Consider what are the real important things that you need to be doing to actually manage your well-being, to make sure those energy levels are topped up, to make sure you're a nicer person to be around at home and in the workplace. And what you could do is, if you write a list, you might come up with 10 things. It might be reading, it might be going for a walk, exercise, playing a guitar, whatever it is for you. A good night's sleep as well, that's helpful. I would look then at writing down on a scale of 1 to 5 how important that is, and you'll find there might be 2 or 3 things that are really, really important for you to stay on top of things. And yeah, I've done this like a number of times in sport and in business with people, and they've found it hugely helpful, and it's been a massive eye opener for them. So I would encourage people to do that, and then to try and track the numbers over a period of time. So look 1 week ahead, 2 weeks ahead, 3 weeks ahead. Are you actually doing what you recognize is important? I suppose now that things have opened up a little bit, maybe getting a massage, go for a little spa day, something like that. They're important things to put in order to maintain maintain the status quo and your mental health and performance.
No, I love that idea. Maybe I need to book a spa day.
Yeah. Well, I've got one booked in with my wife in about 5 weeks' time.
Oh, lucky you! That sounds lovely.
Yeah, I can't wait.
So it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you and talking to someone that knows about resilience and all of that too, that I'm able to bounce back and forth. It's brilliant. So David, before we finish, what's one thing or two things, whatever it might be, that the folks watching today could take away and make sure they action to make themselves a little bit more mentally tough in their business?
Two things. So I think, one is what I've mentioned there, that well-being menu. Really consider that one hard in terms of, what you can do to help yourself, and while you're doing it, I suppose, look ahead, think about in 6 months' time, in 12 months' time, what are the if Boris allows it, of course, what are the treats that you can give yourself in order to like I say, to have optimum functioning? You might want to have a plan A and a plan B if Boris does move the goalposts. So it may well just be the simple things, enjoying the simple things in life, going for a walk. We talked about grounding there, a little bit of grounding and mindfulness. I think that really covers what my big tip would be.
Brilliant. I love it. Well, anything else you want to share with us that we must know about mental toughness before we sort of wind down?
I can't think of any. I think we've covered an awful lot.
We have.
If anybody wants to learn a little bit more about mental toughness, then certainly tune into my podcast there, Demystifying Mental Toughness, and you'll enjoy some of the episodes.
Yeah, I've had a listen, and Demystifying Mental Toughness is a fascinating listen. David has all sorts of psychological experts on there, and sports people and all sorts of different types of guests. So there is generally something for everyone. So yes, highly recommend. In fact, I'm on one of them. That's a definite listen.
It certainly is.
But thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. I think that's hugely helpful as a big reminder of the real need to look after our own mental health and do what we can to boost our mental toughness in support of leading ourselves and our businesses in a sustainable way that we can actually enjoy. Here we go. Darren's just saying, thanks, David. That was super useful. And of course, thanks to, I missed the first 5-10 minutes, so missed the 4 C's, and we'll go back and watch that a bit later. I think the 4 C's are fascinating. What did we have? Commitment, challenge, control, and confidence. Looking at those 4 areas in your life. And my other big takeaway is definitely the well-being menu, and rating those things that bring you joy and help you relax and be in the moment from 1 to 5, and then finding the top 2 or 3 things that you really need to be paying attention to on a daily basis.
Yeah, most definitely, Paula. Yeah, and a big thank you for inviting me on here. I've really enjoyed it. It's been an honour.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I have too, David, and I'll see you again soon. I'm just going to finish off with everybody, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
So that was David Charlton, sports and performance psychologist. What a fascinating 45 minutes we were talking there. I think we could have gone on all day probably. Keep saying that about the guests that I'm having. So, I'm delighted that I've picked such, fantastically inspirational and interesting people who have a lot to share about things that can really help us lead ourselves and our businesses better. So if you are interested in working with me to see how you can build your resilience, how you can lead you and your business better, have somebody as that thought partner in the work that you do, because sometimes, let's face it, being a solopreneur in our business and leading on our own can feel a little bit lonely. It's good to have somebody to bounce off ideas with, develop things further, We always bring a different perspective to one another, and talking about those differences and how great they are, and how they can support us moving forwards to find success, to find our vision of success, of course. Then I have some places opening up on my one-to-one On Point program where we can do all of that. Yes, there's a structure to the program following my 5 R's framework, taking you from realizing you need support to getting the results you're looking for, with some re-energizing, refocusing and recalibrating along the way to make up that 5 R's. But every single client's needs are different, so we do flex the program to suit what it is that you want to focus on and need the most support with. So if you're interested in doing that, I will put the link below this live for you to book in a realization call with me, to have a chat about how working with me might be able to help you in your quest for realizing your vision of success in your business. So thank you everybody for joining us today, and for all of those that you watch this on replay, and again to David Charlton for being such a fantastic guest. Really enjoyed it, and I will see you this afternoon at 3:30 where we've got Alison Nuttall, who's personal trainer, and we'll be looking at the body element of resilience and how looking after yourself physically can lead to your success. So bye for now, and I'll see you at 3:30. Thank you, everybody.